Independence Day on May 18th. Now, this day marked the day Somaliland detached from its neighbor Somalia. A former British colony, Somaliland gained its first taste of independence in 1960, but just months later, the new parliament decided to join the former Italian colony Somalia in what they hoped would eventually become a federation of Somali states in the Horn of Africa. However, years of tension between the north and south of the Somali Republic would see Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, want out of the union. On May 18th, 1991, Somaliland's leaders decided to break away, forming a polity with all the trappings of statehood, a currency, a passport, and a president of its own. Now, the Somali Republic flag was lowered and replaced with that of Somaliland. And 31 years later, Somalilanders still gather to celebrate the decision to leave the union. Now, in regards to this, our reporter George Maringa is just back from Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland, where the national celebrations were held, and he now joins me live with reflections from Hargeisa and the larger Somaliland state, or is it a country? He's here to inform us. Maringa, it's great to see you, first of all. If I knew how Somalilanders speak, I'd pass salutations that way, but straight to it, not many people know that this is a state, or is it a country? But the flip side is it internationally recognized, first of all, before we talk about the people and the culture?
It's quite an interesting country because Somaliland, separated from Somalia back in 1991, and May 18th was the day that they, signed that, or rather they formally exited the union with Somalia, because this Republic of Somaliland wished through its leaders and its people to exit that union that had been agreed upon in the 60s. Remember, actually, Somaliland gained independence just a few days before Kenya did back in the 1963. But then, since 1991, when Somaliland separated from the larger Somalia, it has not gained international recognition. It is not recognized in the states, or rather it doesn't have the stateship that comes with internationally recognized countries globally. And so this is something that over the years, for over 3 decades now, we're talking about 31 years, they've been craving to get, from the international bodies, the African Union, the United Nations, but mostly the Western countries have delegated the issue to the African Union, but the African Union has, used different methods to try and achieve this, but there has not been so much success. And the National Day celebrations were quite elaborate because the people of the Republic of Somaliland, or Somalilanders as they like to call themselves, came out in their large numbers, and it was quite interesting to see that actually the celebrations had lasted for over a week since we had arrived, because we landed on the eve of the celebrations. That was on May 17th, and from actually the minute we landed, the country's flag was dropped in various buildings across the capital, that is Hargeisa. As you drove all the way from the airport to different parts of Hargeisa, the flag of the Republic of Somaliland was evident, and the celebrations proceeded over into the night and spilled over to the morning. And contrary to Kenya, their celebrations started as early as 6:30 a.m. That's when the president arrived at the road number 1, that is at the heart of Hargeisa town, for the celebrations. And it was full of pomp and color. For 31 years, these people have, existed semi-autonomous, whereas they have had their own currency, a passport, a president, and other issues and other, key elements that define a country, but they have not had the international recognition that comes with it. So, and that flag actually with the colors, just to, to elaborate to our viewers, is that it defines the struggle, and the statue, that is that aircraft on screen right now, defines the struggle, the end of years of struggle between these two countries, because it crashed in Hargeisa town, and it is used, in the Monument of Independence. And the difference or the contrast, because the Somaliland flag, the Republic of Somaliland's flag, has a black star to show that they seeded from that union, and so much to speak about because there was also we also visited Wahin Market, the one that burnt down in April. Remember the beginning of Ramadan, it was worth about $2 billion, and it's a market that supported Hargeisa, Somaliland, Somalia, and other countries such as well as the UAE as well. And we also visited the Las Gale cave paintings outside Hargeisa, where there was so much history to learn. And we also actually got a chance to interact with Kenyans working in Somaliland, specifically teachers. And we have about over 10,000 Kenyans who currently work and live in the Republic of Somaliland in various places. We interacted with the teachers who actually teach in the CBC form. In the CBC format, it's quite interesting because such a country would follow the CBC format, and they, are imparting that knowledge. They're part of the 10,000 Kenyans working and living there, as well as others who are in the hotel industry, manufacturing industry, construction, and other sectors. And whereas this country has not had the international recognition, they have a representative in Kenya, that is Ambassador Dr. Mohammed, but they have not gained the diplomatic status as it would be in terms of embassies, because they do not still have the red number plates as for the case in Kenya, but they're still trying to come out and have the international recognition. Their president Musa Bihi Abdi, after visiting Kenya, went to visit the US in a bid to try and gain this international recognition. So we wait and see whether the 32nd celebrations will be interesting to note whether they will be recognized as a fully fledged state or nation. And
I have to ask this because there's usually an assumption of insecurity whenever Somalia comes up due to the presence of Al-Shabaab. Is it a peaceful and prosperous state when we're talking about Somaliland? Well, what challenges in terms of insecurity, since they're so close to Somalia, do they face?
It was interesting because having had the opportunity, the golden chance to visit Somalia in 2019, visiting Somaliland was a whole different ballgame, because in Somalia we all know about the Al-Shabaab, the terror groups that exist, but Somaliland is quite interesting because it's very peaceful. Contrary to what people would think, the Republic of Somaliland is very peaceful. You do not have to wear, the bulletproof jackets. The people there were, celebrating at night, from the wee hours of the from early on, from the late hours of the night to the early hours of the morning, and security is quite guaranteed. And we actually, visited and traversed those streets. We didn't have to go through any, restrictions in terms of security. We did not have to worry about explosions. The only thing that looked like some negative effect was that Wahin Market, which burnt down and is still a shell of what it used to be, supporting the larger Horn of Africa region. But Somaliland is very peaceful. You do not need to go through so much security checks, as it were, being wary of Al-Shabaab and other terror groups. And interesting to note is that there is still a restriction if you want to access Somaliland through Somalia, because Mogadishu still has its, issues with Hargeisa, and they're still trying to solve them. So if you're trying to access Somaliland through Mogadishu, you'll have to gain a special permit. But for Kenyans who are, trying to access or visit Somaliland, you can do that by going through, the embassy. You obtain a visa depending on the duration, and then you'll fly in comfortably. You'll not have to go through or worry about any, attacks through the terror groups or any other insecurity issues.
Well, that's well noted. Especially, it's comforting for the over 10,000 Kenyans who are working there. But as we finalize, and I was looking at the pictures that you were sending in, while you were there, the lion being part of the parade during those celebrations on the National Day. Let's talk about the culture and the affluency of the people in Somaliland, known as Somalilanders. What encompasses their way of life? What would you mention about their culture? I saw you with a scarf as well. So talk to us about that. The pomp and color side.
The pomp and color. This is a set scarf. It was actually given as a souvenir, and it was to tell you how much patriotic these people are. Everyone wore this scarf on the National Day celebrations. You don't quite see that here in Kenya. And business came to a total standstill as they followed the celebrations, on TV, on radio, and they also joined the celebrations at Road 1. That is in Hargeisa. But the lion really was to signify, because existing as a state, as they in the state they are in right now, they describe themselves as brave. They describe themselves as courageous aspects that have been associated, or character traits that have been associated with lions. And so that's why lions are also used in the parade. There are also other, there was pomp and color. We did see them bring down, or rather bring all manner of groups, and their parades were quite interesting, because compared to other countries where you only see the military, even they started actually with students joining the parade. They led the parade, acrobats, different talent groups, and coming in to wind up was the military, showcasing its might and power. Things that are quite associated with the lion, which some of the wildlife attractions that are there, as well as the character traits that the Somalilanders would like to associate themselves with. And they are very welcoming people. They have an interesting culture. Their food is very delicious. They will want to. They speak Somali because, of course, being the main Somali tribe, that's the main language of communication. But they also speak English, and they're very welcoming and warm people. Jesse,
did you learn any language, perhaps, as you finalize salutations, whatnot? Something you can teach us? I did
try, but it was quite heavy on my tongue. Perhaps next time I'll put more effort into it.
Okay, Maringa, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Just breaking down his experience in Somaliland, as you've had. It's definitely an independent state, but still trying to seek that autonomy and recognition in terms of the international partners. But they were celebrating their National Day just recently, and Maringa was there in the country getting a feel of the culture, the way of life right there. And you can expect a lot more in terms of content right here on Standard, through the papers and the TV stations we have. So thanks for that, Maringa, my colleague. And it brings us to a break right here on Africa Speaks. On that particular note, when we come back, more information for you, including a conversation centered on Africa Liberation Week, which is marked on the 25th of May. Much more coming on the other side. Stay with Africa Speaks.